situation. We had 19 people winning on our poll.
Well, I
16
got
of
I
these
got a
said,
couple more for you.
okay.
Uh, let's see. Oh no, I don't have Chris to say Happy Halloween, Paul in DC, to play a mass. Okay, all right, no problem. All right, yeah.
All right. So we had 16 people saying yes, and
Mm-hmm.
3 said no.
Wow.
16 saying yes, and 3 said no.
Yep, that's what I
Um,
got.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of I did a message back to myself, so I with the numbers. All right. So 16 said yes, 3 said no. And I tend to agree with one of the callers who said no and said it'll be another talk shop. I tend to agree with that statement.
You think you'll be another talk shop?
Yeah, yeah. Well, what could a JSC of national security possibly come up with now? Because there's a commissioner of police in place.
Yeah.
There are people in charge of securing the nation.
Mm-hmm.
How is a national security council meeting going to fix that? So I think that's what the opposition called for. How are they expecting to propose? They've not supported anything that the government has proposed in crime. What calling for a national security council joint select committee meeting of the National Security Council offer? What can they possibly offer? I tired of the politics,
That's why you're getting out.
So they call for that. The government decide, the National Security Council decide they're not doing it. You will come now in Monday Night Forum and say the government didn't listen.
When it's not the National Security Council. It is not the National Security Council. That's something different.
Sorry, I misspoke there. It's the
It is the Joint Select Committee on National Security.
Right. The Joint Select Committee on National Security. So you're gonna come in Monday Night Forum now tonight and say, you see, they ain't listening. You're giving them ideas. Ideas to do what? Talk. Give me a break, eh? I can't do the politics.
Anyway, you all did the results of the poll?
Yes, we did.
I went for my coffee. I apologize. I was absent.
Yes, I give the results. 16 people said yes, and 3 said no.
Well, the crime situation is the top. The Prime Minister says it's a health issue. I think a national health concern.
Mm-hmm.
I think something into that.
Public health.
Public health. Sorry, that's a public health concern, and it is. I agree with that. It is a public health concern. When people are dying at that rate in the country, if we had 506 now, God forbid, the end of the year we're going to cross 600.
Well, I don't know, Paul. Exactly.
That's scary, eh?
That's a frightening prospect.
Mm-hmm.
It's a frightening prospect, and it is in addition to the loss of life, which is the most important issue. Think about the damage to our reputation.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yep.
And with greatest of respect to the commissioner, while we could argue about the merits and demerits of the bail bill, which will come to the parliament again. The Attorney General has made it no secret that he intends to revisit it in the parliament. That is just one tool.
Yes.
If it gets to that, and it was in your hands before the TTPS, the commissioner was not the commissioner at the time, but it was available to the TTPS before. Are you saying that the crime spirals at those times when it was active were the result of something else? Is it that the goalposts are changing that much?
Well, here why too I can't buy that story, yeah? Because we have heard reports and we have had reports of people calling shot from the prisons, not so? They're not out on bail.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been causing the deaths of other people on the outside by sitting and they're sitting in a prison.
Yep.
So I don't know. We need to fix the problem. We need to deal with the information that we have, put it to good use, and bring people to justice. That is what we need
another
to do.
large part of it, Wendell and Steve, that, I mean, because people are very cautious, and rightly so, is the fact, and I will say it plainly, that we don't seem to want to hold the courts accountable.
No.
And the fact that criminal cases take so long to go to trial and go through trial is a big part of the problem here.
Yeah, my guest was just wants a couple of minutes again. I have somebody online.
And, you know, so many other jurisdictions have enacted what they call gun courts to deal solely with gun-related offenses expeditiously. So once it's a gun matter, it's going through that court in 3 months.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes. Didn't Jamaica put something in place the other day for people held with guns?
Well, I think I need to go to Parliament, but I think the police commissioner had suggested that an immediate 15-year.
Yeah.
Well, it's a Privy Council ruling, eh? You'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. So we have to. We can't give up.
Well,
we can't
giving
give
up
up.
is an option.
Yeah. I don't know if changing personnel helps, but sometimes it does. You know. Sometimes
When
it
you say
does.
changing personnel, what do you mean?
But we talking commissioner of police, we talking heads of whatever, because the commissioner, all right, let's put it, the commissioner of police from time to time will change around his heads of divisions and so on, right? In a way of getting them to do something different in certain areas, right? We've done that, right? For instance, which is why he brought Alexander in, Senior Superintendent Alexander in charge of Port of Spain, because of all that was going on. I don't know if it has stopped. It may have slowed down a bit when he was first appointed, but I don't think it has stopped. And I don't think anything has changed in any of the divisions by changing them around. We changed commissioners of police over the years. I don't know if that has made a difference. Gary Griffith...
You've had international police commissioners as well.
Right. Gary Griffith, to his credit, did make a small difference. But again, he had the help of COVID. So I don't know that he could take all the glory for all what happened during his time. He certainly had a bravado way of confronting people that worked, sometimes, in my opinion, sometimes, right? The Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Jacobs along the same mode, they are pen pushers. I think they just
I wouldn't class Jacob with Williams. I think Williams was the worst. I don't class Jacobs with Williams at all. I think at least Jacob is willing to admit there's a problem. Williams thought he was doing a great job. He was delusional. Something was wrong with Williams' brain. I'm sorry. He was delusional. He thought he was doing a great job. He disagreed with the manpower audit on several fronts when things stayed in this way. I just thought he was a waste of time. And I've always said there's a few things that various prime ministers agree with. Manning, Pandey, and Rowley all agree that Williams is not to be commissioner substantively.
And Kamala.
And Mrs. Pasabi says so. Okay? They all agree that he was not to become substantive commissioner. He was delusional. I don't think it's fair to judge Jacob and Williams in the same round. I want to ask the question.
Sure.
According to the article I read earlier on from the news there, I don't have the date because I just snapshotted it. The police have charged 1,211 people so far this year for gun-related offenses and have seized 580 guns. Right? I would like to ask the commissioner next time we speak to him, so please remind me. Of these 580 gun seizures, how many operations resulted in that? Or exercises? You understand?
Yeah.
You understand where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
I want to know if it's 1,000 exercises. Police are always an exercise commendable because I'm seeing a lot more police presence out there now, which is great. A lot more presence. And they seem a lot more organized and they're not in the usual places, which is great. So the strategies are to be improving in that realm. But I'd like to know how many exercises resulted in this 580 seizures. Of course, we know that some of them will be multiple guns held in one exercise and stuff. So you get a sense of the success rate.
Yes.
With the seizures.
I think, and then to that question to Paul would be, how many people have been charged with along with these seizures?
Well, they said because 1,211 people. They said so.
They said given a figure.
They said police have charged 1,211 people for gun-related offences.
Okay, all right. I missed that. Sorry.
All right, so there are 1,211.
And you know my age-old question I always ask, and I've asked this of all the commissioners: where are the guns that you seized? What have you done with it? How are we sure that they're not ending up back on the streets because of corruption in the police service?
Didn't they have destroy them recently? Wasn't there a video of that, or was I dreaming?
They did.
What is this thing over your head? I don't understand.
It's Halloween. It's my costume.
My God!
I thought that you had on in front with your shirt and thing as your costume. I thought you were playing.
No, you all have your Halloween costume on every day. I had to get a costume, so
I know
as we stream on YouTube, this is my costume.
But I'm not taking a chance putting on my camera because of the bandwidth. I don't think I think I might get problems. Wi-Fi and Ghana is not best of friends.
Oh, really?
Well, and that's been my experience.
Yeah.
It drops a lot.
I won the our breakfast show Halloween costume.
Steve, is that the thing that they use in Islamic wear? It's very nice.
It's my scarf. Okay, let me take it off.
It's a really nice scarf, though.
Why am I not seeing Steve then?
It's my scarf, because you know me, I like to keep my neck warm. So yeah, it's something like that, Paul.
What is the Islamic that they use for Islamic headwear?
Yeah,
it's very nice. I like it.
Yeah.
Where did you get that?
It's called Amazon.com. All right, my guest is ready.
That one to fit your size of head is astounding, but that's a different story.
Wait till you get back into the show's
When lines
you just wait. Wait till you get back. All right, let me just call my guest. I'm calling Dirk Barnes, by the way.
Okay.
Ouch. I put my phone in my headphones and I hit my
He's
Dirk Barnes. Oh, okay. Dirk Barnes, security man.
Yeah. I promised him that we talked to him. I had called him a couple of weeks back. And he was Major Dirk. I don't know if he still carries the Major. Okay, you guys talk.
I don't know what the protocol is on that. I see retired this and retired that. But I don't know what the actual protocol is regarding ex-military people.
I think you can carry the title after you've achieved a certain rank. You can carry that title for life after you've achieved that certain rank.
Well,
I'm not sure.
Let's ask him.
What is the rank?
Good morning, Dirk. How are you doing?
Good morning, guys. I'm fine.
Yeah, we were just having
recording in progress.
Thank you for chatting with us. Are you still Major Dirk Barnes, or how does that work?
Well, according to the practices and customs of the Defense Force, once you achieve a particular rank, and it will be arguable whether it's captain or major, from my understanding it's major when you acquire a field rank, you can't resign from the battlefield, you retire from the battlefield. So you always hold the rank beyond your retirement. So hence,
that is my understanding too, Dirk, but I wasn't sure what rank it was. And you just confirmed it because I remember now the bacchanal surrounding Gary Griffith when he kept carrying captain, and people were saying he had no right using that rank continuously. And major is higher than captain, isn't it?
It is. Right. It's arguable on both sides because there are practices in different militaries. So he may very well be right. I never got myself involved in the argument because I saw it as nonsensical. We could practice whatever we want here in Trinidad and Tobago. So that was my view.
Right, right. All right.
Okay.
Well, no problem. So, Captain Major, we'll continue to call you all that. I'm good buddies now. I'm good buddies with Rear Admiral, retired Chief of Defense Staff Hayden Pritchard.
Richard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we do Hayden and Wendell.
All right. Well, Major Dirk Barnes. This crime should let me start off by going through our morning poll. All right, and the guys will take it. Our poll this morning was: do you agree that the National Security Joint Select Committee should convene an emergency meeting to discuss the crime surge in Trinidad and Tobago?
And what would be on the agenda? Because if it's just the crime scourge and there's a discussion, not much going to come out of that. It really comes down to what new initiatives can be practiced outside here, on the streets. When you're talking about a joint select committee, they're talking about policy and strategy. Policy and strategy doesn't take immediate effect. That is something that happens well in the future. Every school of thought will tell you that. What we really need now is some proper management of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And
well, actually, morning, Dick, a joint select committee does not come up with policy and strategy. It may examine a situation. It may bring stakeholders before to see how effective they're being, like the TT police force, etc. And they can make recommendations to the parliament or to the cabinet. Right. They can form no policy for the cabinet.
And I will correct my statements, but I'm looking at it from a holistic point of view. If you have that joint select committee, they are going to be informing, as you just said, Parliament and Cabinet. And they're the policy makers, the strategizers.
Well, what it gives an opportunity for is to question significant players in the national security grid to see if they're operating effectively and where there may be gaps and opportunities for improvement.
Okay, and I hear you on that. I still don't see the value at this point in time because we're talking about 17 killings in one weekend. So great, we do it, and we identify the gaps that are quite evident to us right now.
What are those gaps in your opinion?
Well, right now it's a management issue, a serious management issue within our law enforcement community. I saw a comment over the weekend, and I'm doubting that the media actually reported that comment, where it was said that Mr. Jacob, and it was quoted, that the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, is not a true law enforcement agency or something to that effect. In other words, they don't do law enforcement activities. And I was starting to second guess my entire existence of my previous career, because as much as the Defense Force is really and truly a defense agency, they do perform law enforcement functions, and they do it sometimes without the police. Case in point, what does the Coast Guard do on the waters? That is law enforcement, because they enforce the maritime law. And there are other areas as well of law enforcement that the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force are involved in. So when you have an organization head who does not understand the capabilities and the support from particular close stakeholders, and to make a comment like that, it starts to me question his competence. And as we start to talk about competence, from my understanding, the gentleman was not the top scorer even in the assessments to hold that office because he was the most senior person. I'm thinking it's time for us to start to recognize that maybe we have square pegs and round holes, and we should really have somebody who scored really high, maybe after the top scorer, because we know who the top scorer is and he's not in that position for whatever reason, and have them start to manage the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, because it's a management issue, and we have to call it what it is. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, come on. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is our premier law enforcement agency. Last November, I will never forget this, last November we saw a press conference that they were calling people off leave. Now, having been in the military for years, working with police officers for years, I know when you call a man off leave, he's demoralized, because that is a time for him to rest, reflect, recharge, and get back out to work. You call these people off leave. You said you're going to be able to arrest the crime surge because you get these guys. And nothing. We saw it climb. Earlier this year, I think it was July, August, he did the same strategy, expecting different results. We saw a crime surge. Now we have 110 brand new recruits who know nothing. And we are being told that we must expect that these new recruits are going to cause an arrest of crime. Come on. This is a management and deployment issue. We have officers outside here that are very willing, but they're just demoralized. I have first-hand knowledge of visiting a police station 6 o'clock in the morning while outside there on operation supporting the police. And when I got to the station, there was one officer inside of the station. This is not joke. This is fact. This is not lie. This is not defamation. This is what happened to me. One officer in an entire police station in Santa Cruz. And when I asked the question, everybody says, this is a normal thing here. The higher ups don't know. They're not doing anything about it. And you've seen the tiredness on the officer's face. So we cannot be expecting miracles when we have poor management of the resources that our taxes are paying. That is the reality, guys. Whether you want to face it or not, if you feel a lie, you can go and ask. Hello?
Yeah, sorry. Let's talk about the type of ammunition, the type of arms we're seeing in the country. I read an article earlier on in the Newsday, which indicated that the police have seized 580 guns. Of those, 102 were AR-15s and AK-47s. What does that tell you as somebody who is trained and experienced in dealing with arms and ammunition?
Trinidad and Tobago is a war zone to start with. Now, when you're talking about AR-15s, AK-47s, and you'll probably see more AR-15s because they're easier to acquire and it's easier to get compatible ammunition for it, especially when you have the police service armory and the defense force armory operating as ammunition dealers. The issue with the AR-15, the caliber of round at 5.56 millimeter, it's a very, in wrong hands, it's a devastating round. As compared to what you would see in a pistol, a 9 millimeter pistol, we're talking about a round that is traveling 3 times as fast and delivering about 3 times as much energy. Basically, that round goes into the body. It causes significant bleeding that will put that person into shock. Probably on the first or second round, depending on how well.
But I mean, treat us like total novices where guns are concerned. Tell us, because I don't think the public understands what an AR-15 or AK-47 really means in the hands of the criminals in Trinidad and Tobago. From a global perspective, what are these weapons usually used for, and what are they capable of in terms of mass casualties?
All right, so Paul, the thing is, as a weapon expert, you may not like the response to this. The AR-15, let's talk about it specifically, is really a sport hunting rifle. The variant of that is what we're all familiar with, is the M16 and the M16 or the M4. Those are weapons that are normally put out into, they're normally used in conflicts and battles and skirmishes. Let's call it AKA war. Now, the difference between the two is that the M16 is normally an automatic weapon, where the AR-15 is a semi-automatic, as in you pull the trigger once, one round goes down range. Now, what happens most of the time is that is a lot of the M16 or variants or modified versions of it that ends up into the hands of criminals, but it looks just like an AR-15, so everybody calls it an AR-15. I have to be very mindful because I too am an owner of an AR-15. My AR-15 is really for the defense of my dealership. It is there for sport and all these different things. However, even though it's the same weapon, you wouldn't find my weapon in a war type scenario. Similarly, once you start to classify the weapons, I want to make sure that people understand the difference, because what these bandits are using most of the times is the automatic version of the weapon, which is the devastating part of it. Because once you spray and pray, you have 5.56 rounds heading downrange towards their target and anybody else who's lying behind it. And that's what makes it really, really dangerous. It's not the weapon per se that is the dangerous part of the components, It's the ammunition, it's the round that is traveling downrange that does the devastation. So when you have criminals who do not have proper training, who are using these weapons out in the open, and half the time they're not even looking down their sights, they're just spraying in the direction of the enemy that they have. People who are in the area are the ones who are going to be injured, and we're seeing more and more of that. So yes, those weapons in the hands of criminals is a very dangerous thing. And when the police are taking them off the streets, we have to be thankful that they are off the streets. But those operations have to be more progressive. Recently, we know of a seizure that took place in one of the bonds in Trinidad and Tobago. We also heard that in the United States, 3 people were arrested for shipping weapons to Trinidad and Tobago. Now, I highly suspect that the reason why no arrests were made here in Trinidad is because somebody within our national security apparatus tipped off the receiver. I highly suspect. Because there's no reason why a controlled drop could not have been done, so we would have known exactly who was the person bringing in the firearms. But we have issues. I've said this before on this show, and I will continue to say this. Our customs and excise who are charged with making sure that they could be the guardians of our community, they are dropping the ball constantly because within those services, you have people who are compromised.
But if the National Security Minister and the Commissioner of Police have consistently said that most of these weapons are coming through illegal ports, what does that say about the real will to stop this flow?
Coming through, you said kind of quickly, coming through legal or illegal ports?
Legal ports.
Okay, good. It says that we don't have much political will to stop this, because we know this is coming through the legal ports. Our international partners have been working with us. They have been alerting us. They have been telling us. They have been giving us information. And within our own apparatus, we are being compromised. For weapons to come into Trinidad and Tobago, keep in mind these weapons have to be scanned, and they're coming through, as you just said, legal ports. That is the shipping ports, the airports. They're coming through as parts, camouflaged in containers, camouflaged in barrels. All of these things have to pass through scanners. Now we're going to be hearing that people are not trained to use the scanners, or the scanners are down, and all these different things. That all of those things require government to provide necessary releases to keep those things up. So if these things are happening and it's a constant complaint, we really need a Joint Select Committee to come and ascertain that. We are doing the work of the Joint Select Committee here right now on this particular show. It is common sense. These matters need to be addressed and need to be given priority. These guns that are on the street here right now did not come in last week. They were coming in over years. The initiatives that are taking place to bring in these guns didn't start its process it didn't initiate a process yesterday. This thing started 2-3 years ago. So what we are seeing here right now is the failure of our government and its apparatus 2 years ago and beyond.
And what are the ammunition being used with these weapons? Certainly you can bring guns in, but where are they accessing the ammunition? The same illegal smuggling systems? And is it that, and someone sent this question for me to ask, what sorts of checks and balances do we have, if any, for possibly the criminal element to be accessing ammunition from local dealers? Is that a possibility?
Right, so this is that last question I will answer first and I will work backwards. I can speak for myself when it comes to ammunition ending up outside here from a local dealer, specifically myself, because I'm a gun dealer. And as a gun dealer, I am required to ensure that I have my books and everything in ready for audit. Now, from the minute you become a gun dealer, we have this huge book. It's called the register, the ammunition register. You put the amount of ammunition that you would have shipped into the country, and for every time you sold or you used for training, you have to come down and draw down on that ammunition. You keep a record of the day, time, and all these different things. Now, that is supposed to be audited by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and signed off upon. A count is done. Now, for larger dealers who bring in millions of wrongs at a point in time, of course, that's going to become a bit more difficult. Now, let's work backwards. When those wrongs come into the country, they pass through customs. I have actually had customs inspect my shipments where they counted every single wrong. It took hours. So I am aware that there are good custom officers who would do the job. So for an organization like mine, where we would keep our ammunition accounted for, I can show where all the ammunition was used and who it was sold to, and it will also correspond to what we have in stock. I do not see wrongs that I brought into the country ending up into the hands of criminals. Other dealers are supposed to be doing the same thing, and the dealers that I know, a lot of them are as meticulous as I am. Now, what we have been seeing, however, is two other types of instances. One, when a lot of these guns come in, they don't come in guns alone. They sometimes have ammunition with them. Most times they have ammunition with them. So it means that not only are these guys bringing in their guns, they're bringing in their ammunition. The other thing that we are seeing is while everybody wants to turn a torchlight and put it on the gun dealers and say somehow the gun dealers are part of this whole criminal enterprise, what we are actually seeing is the law enforcement agencies putting the ammunition into the hands of these criminals. Just this weekend, it was reported that 5.56 rounds belonging to the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force was found on the scene. I didn't see the Chief of Defense Staff in handcuffs. Before that, we saw Trinidad and Tobago Police Service rounds end up on scenes. We did not see the Commissioner of Police on handcuffs. So we have to be very mindful that when you try to paint a narrative that the gun dealers are the ones who are involved in these things, it's the people who you entrust with your safety who are sometimes involved.
Why should the Chief of Defense Staff or the Commissioner of Police be in handcuffs? Because ammunition from the TT Defense Force or the TT Police Service were found on crime scenes.
I'm not saying that it should be. What I'm drawing.
But you just mentioned it.
I said we did not see them in handcuffs. I did not say they should be. But what I'm coming back.
There's an implication to making that statement, though.
I'm using some figurative.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it's figurative.
It's just figurative. But I'm saying that from the onset of one gun dealer was recently arrested, and he was arrested for having certain things in his possession, not putting anything out into the community. By the way, he wasn't arrested for selling ammunition to criminals or selling weapons to criminals. He was arrested for possession of things he should not have had, which, from my understanding, he had for quite a long time because he was always he's a supplier, major supplier for the same military and the police. And since then, a huge spotlight has been put onto all of the gun dealers, inclusive of myself. I'm still waiting for my order to take place. I have all my books ready for them. And a different narrative has been spread across the Trinidad and Tobago that now the gun dealers are involved in crime. So I'm saying that, sometimes you have to look at it from a point, and that, by the way, Paul, is literally what's happening. So that's literal. So just as you were offended by the fact that I would have said something figuratively, imagine how...
I wasn't offended that if you make a statement on national radio that's being streamed, that because bullets, ammunition from the TT Defense Force or the TT Police Service have been found on crime scenes, and you don't see the Commissioner of Police or the Chief of Defense Staff in handcuffs, there's an implication to a statement like that. So we must clarify and or challenge a statement like that.
Well, and my statement...
Because if someone finds ammunition registered to Dirk Barnes in a crime scene and someone makes that statement, I'll challenge it just the same way. It doesn't mean that Dirk Barnes committed a crime.
Well, interestingly enough, I love what you just said, Paul. I love what you just said. Because in some time in the future, I hope I'm back on this show and we can come back to this particular sound clip, because you would recognize that right now, firearm dealers are being put under heavy scrutiny, being treated like criminals. One particular firearm dealer, there's no evidence, there was no report against him, there was nothing. Building was raided, house was raided, he cooperated fully, there was nothing found, and now he has the authorities in court. This is the mindset that currently exists, and while all of that was taking place, his name was being drawn through the mud because they were behaving as though, yes, he's involved in something. He's from a big family. So it's a matter of time until it all comes out. This is what I'm saying. They're treating the wrong people like criminals just because one person did something with very poor judgment. Now, there's a bigger narrative. There's a bigger reason for all of this happening. Something I ought not to discuss on radio.
And which is, you're not going to just say that and think we're not going to ask you what it is. What is the bigger narrative? Is there an agenda for here?
Of course there is an agenda. And the bigger agenda? The bigger agenda here right now is the fact that you have firearm dealers who were part and mentioned in something called a probe. That's the bigger agenda. And because firearm dealers were mentioned in a probe, in an audit that is currently before our Prime Minister, we are now under some level of scrutiny. And it's a ridiculous level of scrutiny. We are being treated like criminals. So
what is the status of, when you say that, so there's an extensive audit going on of your systems, is that it?
Well, the Trinidad and Tobago Police are required to audit all firearm dealers periodically as required in law. That's in Chapter 1601. That's in law. The challenge I have here, the audit is not, well, we're here to conduct an audit. That's not it. They're not going to get a call and then they're going to fix a date and all of these different things. That's not what happens. And that's what used to happen. What is happening now is that a bunch of officers are showing up. We're here to conduct an audit and we have a warrant and we go to your house and all these different things. That is not an audit, that's a witch hunt. So there's
so you think that dealers are being unfairly targeted? Is that the statement?
From my observation, yes, we are.
And you think that's because you've ended up in the report for some reason, or some dealers in general have ended up in the report, and let me see.
I've not seen the report, so it's mere speculation. But from my observations, what I'm seeing happening now, in terms of dealers being visited, the kind of things that we are hearing and all that kind of stuff, it is clearly a witch hunt, and I don't know what you're looking for. I am a law-abiding citizen. I don't even break the speed limit. Everything that I do as a dealer is above board, and I am waiting for my audit.
Let me draw a different component into this.
But while I'm waiting for all of this to happen, there are different communities of people who are right now shunning themselves from people like me because we are seen as though we are somehow feeding the criminal enterprise. And these things, this is why I'm very anxious for my audit, because these things are damaging our reputations that we spend a lot of time to build. Go ahead, Barbara.
And while this focus is being placed, in your words, on legitimate gun dealers in the country, do you think enough emphasis is being placed on the unregulated private security industry?
Unregulated. I do not see any type of oversight over the unregulated part of the security industry. I am aware that there's a private security industries bill currently being considered. I do believe the bill has some significant shortcomings that opens up liability to a lot of companies. And I welcome the bill, but I believe certain changes need to be made. Like, for example, right now within the industry, as we fall under the Supplemental Police Act, we have the powers of arrest, we have what we call precepts because we are sworn officers. The new bill removes that and basically puts us back into the realm of conducting a citizen's arrest or a detention as necessary, from my interpretation.
Well, the new bill also, because I had cited, but I sat on the committee, has provisions for the application of licenses, which in some of those licenses will give some of those powers to specific officers.
And again, but here's where you did not consider. You have special service officers, you have security officers, which are like guards, and you went and you defined the different duties. You know, Paul, nobody spoke to companies, even though I provided this information to the Joint Select Committee. Nobody really consulted companies that do first responder operations. You know, so
I think there was a general call for responses to the bill in the early stages of deliberations that was wide and open to anyone who wanted to send either written submissions or be a guest as one of the stakeholders for the committees.
Paul, and I made written submissions. It was recorded in the minutes. It's there on the Parliament site, and the committee ignored everything. I highlighted the fact that, one, for companies that are doing response, like for instance, my company or one of my companies, we are outside there recovering stolen vehicles on behalf of customers. When that bill kicks in, you have basically removed all of the immunities that we currently enjoy for those operations and rest all of the liability on the owner of the company and ensuring that the officers outside there are not covered in their operations. We no longer have precepts. So if I go out and I recover a stolen vehicle, police haven't arrived as yet, and the people are on, the people are there, or somebody is in receipt of that particular vehicle, I cannot arrest them. I cannot even hold them. I cannot detain them. I have to let them go. It was an oversight, and I provided that in my document. But I will send that to you.
Hopefully, if it comes to the Parliament, those points can be raised and amendments hopefully could be made.
I would hope so, but I will send you the document I sent. But if you also you look at the Joint Select Committee, the submission from Air Support Tactical was recorded, but nothing changed from when I sent that in. I'm not one of those people that sit down and just let things roll out. I'm not that type of person. I get involved. But as you come back to your original question, the unregulated security industry it's a big issue. Because you have officers outside there putting themselves in their harm's way who are not trained, and some of them are behaving as though they are law enforcement. But I would also want to throw another dynamic for you. The other challenge that
in addition to that, let me just add this. The vetting processes for some of these companies are sketchy as hell, and they drag people off the streets and put firearms in their hands.
No, that is not true. An unregulated, unregulated.
That's what the word unregulated means. No one is checking.
Well, okay. So then you're talking about an approved security company. Because
yes, but it's unregulated to the point that the checks and balances to ensure that the persons who have access to firearms and ammunition are not being done consistently. That's what the unregulated part of it means.
Okay. So for an officer to carry a firearm legitimately with a security company, whether it's regulated or not, and I'm talking about a secure company that is approved, he must go through an investigation, just like anybody else who applies for a firearm. The Toronto Tobago Police Service wouldn't just give the security company the permission for that person to carry a firearm, because the company has to apply for an FUEC, a Firearms User Employee Certificate, from the TTPS for that particular employee. So that is a point of regulation and oversight on behalf of the TTPS, and an investigation has to be done. The challenge is that the investigation is done by retirees in most cases, and most of the times it's retired police officers that the company must contract. So I welcome the fact that you're now going to have a regulatory body when we come out to the private security industries bill. I welcome that particular fact. It's going to cause things like training to be standardized. It's going to cause investigations to be standardized. So I'm not one of those people who are against the bill at all. I am saying that the bill have to include some things to cover companies that currently exist in particular operations. That is what I am suggesting.
All right, Dirk. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time and contribution this morning.
So, always a pleasure, guys.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Major Dirk Barnes, for being on the Power Breakfast.
Recording stopped.
Morning. All right. As we head up towards our 8 o'clock news brief on this, the last day of October. Big holiday.